So today I'm going to do a recap of A Nightmare on Elm Street, the movie, the first movie. And I was going to originally show like some footage from the movie or maybe some stills, but I didn't want to get a copyright claim against me, so I decided to just draw my own little recap comic of the movie, and I'll use that to explain what happens. Before I get started, if you like my videos, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. It'll really help out the channel. Alright, let's get started. So we start up here. The movie starts with a little montage of Freddy making his glove. Well, you don't know it's Freddy. I'm guessing everybody knows who Freddy is now, but you see this mysterious man, and he's making this glove, and he's attaching these blades to the end of each finger, and we later learn that's his, I guess, weapon of choice when it comes to killing. But you don't see his face at this point, you just see him making the glove and this really creepy sounds and stuff like that. So a nice introduction, and then you get the title screen, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and you get the creepy music and all that. Okay, then we start off with this girl. Her name is Tina, and she's having a dream, and it's really weird and bizarre and creepy. She's in like this boiler room type environment, and she keeps hearing somebody call her name, Tina. So she, she's wandering around this environment. She sees this little lamb or a sheep or a goat or something. It's not a goat, but a lamb, let's say. Or probably a sheep. Let's call it a sheep. So she sees a sheep for no reason, and everything's all really creepy. And then eventually this man pops out from behind her, or behind a pipe or something, and he has his claws there, and she gets terrified, and he takes a swipe at her with his claw. But then she wakes up just in time. But when she wakes up, she looks down at her nightgown, and she notices that it's been scratched just where this guy Freddy swiped at her. So somehow, what happened in her dream actually happened in real life. So we get a nice creepy intro there. Very well done. So then the next day she's at school, and we're introduced to her friends. There's Nancy Thompson. There's Tina, of course, you already were introduced to her. There's her greasy boyfriend, Rod. He's just always looking very greasy. And then there is Glenn, kind of Nancy's boyfriend, I guess, but I'm not 100% sure how serious they are yet. And he's played by Johnny Depp, so I think I'll call him Johnny Depp throughout this review, but I may call him Glenn by accident a few times, but it's Johnny Depp. So then, so they're basically, they arrive at school and they're just talking, and then there's some conversation about dreams, blah blah blah, and then Rod and Tina get into a bit of a fight for kind of a silly reason, but they get into a bit of a fight because Rod says something about the dreams that he has about Tina, and then Rod, they both get upset, and then Rod says probably the best line in the movie and any movie ever. He says, "Up yours with a twirling lawnmower. Up yours with a twirling lawnmower." Brilliant stuff, brilliant. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, this movie is written and directed by Wes Craven, one of the horror masters. So anyways, now it's the next night, or it's, I think, that night, and they're at Tina's house, so they're having a little slumber party, I guess, and it's Tina, Nancy, and Johnny Depp are there, and they're listening to some 80s tuneskis on the radio. And then they start talking about dreams and stuff, and I think Tina mentions that about the dreams about the guy with fingernails, long fingernails, and then Nancy is like, she had dreams like that too. And they're both like, oh my god. And then they hear screech coming from outside, some screeching noise. So they're pretty brave. So because they along with Johnny Depp, of course, go outside to investigate. And then you get a jump scare. It ends up being Rod, Tina's greasy boyfriend. He was just using some kind of garden tool to make that screeching noise. But I guess for some reason that act really, turned Tina on or something, because they kissed and made up, and then they go into the bedroom for some adult situations. Adult situations. So then after they have their adult situation time, they're in bed, and Rod is more greasy than ever. Grease, sweat, a lot of sweat. And then Rod mentions how guys can have nightmares too. So obviously Rod was also having some kind of nightmares, but he doesn't really go into details. So then they fall asleep. And then Tina starts having a dream, and she hears that voice again calling her, Tina, Tina. And she gets up and she goes to the window, and she part of the window cracks. I think it's supposed to be a little pebble that was thrown, and it got embedded in the window because I guess it was thrown so hard or something. And then we cut into the room where Nancy's sleeping, and it looks like she's having a nightmare too. And it's a really cool, memorable scene and cool effect where Freddy's face is pushing through the wall. So the wall becomes like this pliable, soft material. I don't know how to explain it, but his face is like pressing through the wall, and his hands are pressing through the wall too, right above Nancy. But then Nancy gets up, she turns around, and the wall goes back to normal. So I guess she woke up. So then Tina goes outside to investigate who's calling her, which is unrealistic. I'd be too terrified to even move. And then another classic scene. So she sees this mysterious man in the distance who has this hat, a sweater, and a glove with nails on it. And he starts walking towards her, but his arms start to grow out to each side, and they get really, really long. And then with this glove, he starts scratching some sheet metal or something off to the side. Screech, 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 screech. It's a really, really cool effect and really creepy. So Tina's like freaks out, and she starts to run. And then Freddy's like, Tina. And then she stops on a dime and turns around. I don't know why she would stop and turn around, but she stops and turns around. And then Freddy's like, check this out. And he cuts off 2 of his own fingers with his glove. And man, I've never seen somebody so happy before ever, let alone Freddy. I mean, you gotta see the look on his face. This is no exaggeration to how happy he was to cut his own 2 fingers off. And of course there's all blood spurting out. Nice effect that they did there. So of course Tina, that freaks her out, so she keeps running back to her house. And then Freddy catches up with her, and they start, a scuffle breaks out. And then Tina grabs Freddy's face and claws at it, but then his face just like slides off and exposes his skull underneath, and he laughs. It's a pretty creepy effect as well. And then we cut to, I guess, what do you want to call this? The real world or whatever. Rod wakes up and he sees cuts start to appear on Tina's body all at once. And he's like, what the hell's going on, Tina? And there's blood everywhere. And then just an iconic but very disturbing scene Tina starts to levitate out of her bed, and it looks like she's being tossed around, and she's like floating in the air. And then she, more cuts are just appearing all over, and she's a bloody mess. And Rod is like just freaking out, doesn't know what to do. And then this wakes up Nancy and Johnny Depp in the other room, and they come to investigate. And when they open the door, they find Tina's dead body on the floor. There's blood everywhere, and a window's open, and Rod is nowhere to be found. So then we cut to the police station. So this is later on, and we're introduced to two characters. Lieutenant Thompson, who is Nancy's father. He's a police lieutenant, and her mother, Marge. And I think they're divorced, and they don't seem to get along very well. So the father is he's like, "What the hell were you doing there, Nancy? That guy Rod is dangerous." And she's like, "He's not dangerous. Yeah, sure, him and Tina got into fights every once in a while, but it was nothing serious." And then the mom is like, "Well, I'm sorry, you don't think this is serious." And then Nancy's like, "How can you say that? My friend is dead." So she was really upset about that. So maybe bad choice of words by the mom. So the next day, so this is Nancy's house, and it's an iconic house because it becomes known as, I guess, as the Freddy Krueger house or the Nightmare on Elm Street house. And it's a real house, by the way. You can see it on YouTube. But this house appears pretty much in every movie, and I'm not sure if this ends up being revealed to be Freddy's house when he was alive, just a regular human. But anyways, it's an important house in the series. So Nancy comes downstairs, and her mom sees her, and Nancy wants to go to school, but the mom's like, "Oh, you've been through a lot, you should stay home." But Nancy says, "I'll go crazy if I just stay home, I have to go to school." So there's that's Nancy. She's walking on the sidewalk to school, and there she sees some stranger who's kind of staring at her. And then she passes this bush or whatever, and then Rod jumps out, and you can see he's still greasy, but he jumps out and he grabs Nancy and pulls her into the bush. And he's basically saying that he didn't do it, he didn't kill Tina. Nancy seems a little bit skeptical, but yeah, he's trying to convince her that he didn't do it. He's like, "Well, what do I do? What do I do now?" And then Nancy's father, Lieutenant Thompson, appears out of nowhere and points a gun at him and says, "Don't move." And Nancy's like, "You used me, Dad." So obviously the police thought that Rod was the number one suspect, and they assumed that Nancy might try to contact him. So that's why this stranger guy was there. He was a cop, and he was spying on her basically. So Nancy gets upset that they used her to find Rod, and her dad is like, "What are you doing here? You should be at home." And she's like, "I'm going to school," or whatever. And so she takes off and goes to school, and Rod gets caught and goes to jail. So here we see Nancy at school, and she's in English class, I think, and she falls asleep because it's really boring. She just blah 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 from the teacher. So this is a really disturbing moment, another iconic moment. So she starts having this dream, and she looks over to the doorway of the classroom, and she sees Tina in first she hears someone calling her name, Nancy, Nancy. So she looks over and sees Tina's body inside one of those corpse bags, but it's like a clear bag, so she can see through it a bit. And she sees her friend Tina, and she's all full of blood, and she looks dead, but she's calling Nancy's name. So then Nancy looks around the classroom, and no one else seems to notice this. And then she looks back in the hallway, and Tina's gone, but she still sees the pool of blood on the floor. So then she goes out into the hallway and she sees a trail of blood, so she decides to follow it. So this is the long school hallway. She goes down some steps, and then actually on one part she sees this, what do you call it, hall monitor, this girl, and she's wearing this sweater that looks like Freddy's sweater, the green and red stripes, and she's like, no running. And then Nancy, I think, pushes her to the ground or something like that, and she's like, screw your hall pass or something. I'm not recapping this exactly right, but then the girl looks at Nancy and says something in Freddy's voice. Now I can't remember what it is. I probably should have planned that better, but anyways. So anyway, Nancy keeps going and she finds this boiler room area in the school. One thing you'll find out is that Freddy really likes hanging out in boiler rooms. Okay, so she's wandering around this creepy boiler room for a while, and then she sees this mysterious dude come out of the shadows, and she's like, who are you? So Freddy's response, of course, is to lift his shirt, and then he slices open his own chest, and all these maggots start coming out. A really cool effect. The only weird thing is that his chest and his stomach didn't have any burns because his face is all burned. I didn't mention that, but his face looks all burned. But his chest was absolutely normal, so that was kind of weird. Maybe they got lazy with the makeup. And then she starts running, and then eventually she gets cornered. She, goes into this little dead end area, and then Freddy slowly approaches her, and he's like laughing and being all creepy, and the music's all creepy, and then it shows a close-up of his mouth, and he's like, come to Freddy, and then it shows his tongue flicker in a very creepy way. And then Nancy's like, God damn you. And then she puts her arm on this pipe, a really hot pipe, I guess it's carrying hot water, and it burns her arm. And then she wakes up in the classroom, sitting at her desk, and she's freaking out. She's like totally going berserk. And then the teacher, tries to calm her down. She's like, Nancy, what's wrong? What's happening? And then she sort of, comes to her senses, and then she bolts. She leaves the class. And she notices that on her arm, where she got burned in the dream, she was actually burned in real life. So now she's starting to, figure things out. So she decides to visit Rod in jail, and there he is, poor guy behind bars, and she's asking him questions about what happened that night with Tina. And he's like, I just saw all these cuts appear on her at once, 4 cuts at once. So that clues Nancy into like, okay, 4 cuts at once. That sounds like, Freddy's glove thingy. And Rod's like, I could have helped her if I acted sooner, but I thought it was just another nightmare. And Nancy's like, figuring out, okay, he thought it was a nightmare, so he has nightmares too. So she's putting, starting to put things together. And he's like, do you think I did it? And Nancy's like, no. So she starts to believe him, and she leaves. So later, she's at home and she's relaxing in a hot bath, and she starts singing 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. That's the classic Freddy song. And she starts drifting off to sleep. And just then Freddy's glove slowly comes out of the water, and just when you think she's done for, Nancy's mom knocks on the washroom door, and she wakes up, and then Freddy's claw goes back underwater. And she's like, what is it, mother? And my mom's like, don't fall asleep in the bathtub, some people drown that way. And she's like, oh, please, mother. And okay, the mom leaves, and then Nancy actually does fall asleep, hears it. So the mom comes rushing to the door. She's knocking on the door, and Nancy's not responding. And then the mom, busts the door open. But by that point, Nancy's up and out of the bathtub, and Nancy's like, "Oh, I'm okay, Mom. I just slipped getting out of the tub." And she didn't want to tell her mom about the dream. So then the mom leaves, and then Nancy opens the medicine cabinet, and she sees these pills to make you stay awake, because obviously she doesn't want to sleep. So later she's in her bed, and she's watching TV, and this is an interesting bit of trivia that the movie she's watching is Evil Dead 2, I believe. Yeah, Evil Dead 2, which is another classic horror movie. But what's interesting about that is that in Evil Dead 1, there was one part, I think, in the cellar, there was a poster on the wall, and it was for, The Hills Have Eyes, I think, which is a movie directed by Wes Craven. That was in the first Evil Dead movie. So then Wes Craven put this of Evil Dead 2, this reference to Evil Dead 2 on the TV. And then I think wait, am I doing this right? No, this was Evil Dead 1, sorry. I believe this was Evil Dead 1 on the TV. And then in Evil Dead 2, there was, I think you can see the Freddy glove on the wall on one part. Not 100% sure if I'm saying all this right. But anyways, and another connection here is that in Jason Goes to Hell, which is Friday the 13th, part 9, you see the Necronomicon. The Necronomicon's featured in the movie, which that's from the Evil Dead series, but also in Jason Goes to Hell. At the end, Freddy's claw comes out of the dirt and pulls Jason's mask into hell. So basically, these three movies are connected, and there was actually talk of doing a 3-way crossover movie, but that never happened. But they did make comics based on that. Anyways, that was a massive aside. So Nancy's watching TV, she shuts it off, and then she calls Johnny Depp to come over. Johnny Depp is her boyfriend, I guess, and he lives across the street from her. So he comes over, he sneaks in through her window, and she tells him, "Okay, I need you to do me a favor. I need to get some sleep, so I want you to watch me, and if you see me acting weird or doing anything weird, wake me up. Like, if it looks like I'm having a nightmare, wake me up." And he's like, yeah, no problem. She's like, "Don't fall asleep." He's like, yeah, don't worry. You can always trust Johnny Depp. So Nancy goes to sleep, and she starts having a dream. So in her dream, she's walking outside, and at one point, she turns back, and she's like, "Are you there?" And then Johnny Depp walks out from behind a tree, and he's like, "Yeah, so what?" And she's like, "Just checking." And then Johnny Depp's like, and he just walks back behind the tree. So it was kind of interesting how they did that, kind of somehow creepy, I don't know why, but it makes you think, wait a minute, how is Johnny Depp communicating with her if he's awake? Is she talking in her sleep and he's responding? Or did he fall asleep and he's in the dream too? I guess we'll find out a bit later. So anyway, in the dream, she walks to the jail, and she looks in the window, and she sees her friend Rod lying in his cell, sleeping. And then she sees Freddy walking down there in the jail, and then he walks through the bars of his cell, just like T-1000 did in Terminator 2. So she starts freaking out, and she's calling for Glenn, but Glenn's not responding. And then suddenly Freddy appears next to her or something, and she starts running, and she's screaming for Glenn, but again, no response from Glenn. So she runs home and locks the door behind her, and she starts going up the steps. But as you can see, her feet start going through the steps as if the steps are made of a soft marshmallow material. So it makes her really hard to go up the steps. She's because it's kind of cheaply done. It makes me laugh, but Freddy says, Nancy help, but he's saying it in Tina's voice. But he's wearing a terrible, terrible mask that's supposed to be Tina, but you would never know that. That's supposed to be Tina, and then he rips off, and then Tina's like, or Freddy says in Tina's voice, help, you have to save me from, and then Freddy rips off the mask and says, Freddy. And yeah, like, I don't know why they did it. It could have been Tina's. They could have got Tina's actual face, like the actress, pretending. Sorry, you could have had Freddy taken Tina's form and used the actress who played Tina, and then you could have reverted back to Freddy at the appropriate moment instead of using like a really cheap mask. But I don't know, it's kind of funny. So then Nancy runs upstairs and she closes her bedroom door behind her, and on the bedroom door there's a mirror, and she looks in the mirror and says, this is just a dream. It isn't real. This is just a dream. It isn't real. And just then, boom, Freddy busts through the mirror, and it's a really awesome effect in the way Freddy jumps through, and he's like, just was so cool. One of the most memorable parts in the movie for me anyways. And of course, this whole time, Johnny Depp is passed out on the sofa or on the chair wherever he's sleeping. You see Z, 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 Z. You don't actually see the Z's in the movie, but so he's sleeping through this whole thing. So Freddy jumps on top of Nancy, and he's like taking swipes at her with his glove, and he swipes or he claws at her pillow, and feathers go all over the place, but he doesn't get Nancy. And just in time, her alarm clock goes off. Ring, 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 ring. So Nancy wakes up and she's freaking out, and Glenn wakes up too, and he's like, oh, what happened? What's wrong? What's wrong? So Nancy's furious. She's like, you had one job, Johnny Depp, you had one job, and you screwed up. And he's like, sorry, I'm sorry, I fell asleep. And then I think Nancy's mom comes up, knocks on her door, and then she tells Johnny Depp, she's like, get out of here, hide outside my window. So he goes outside her window to hide, and she tells her mom, yeah, it's okay, Mom, I was just having a nightmare. So the mom leaves, and then Nancy looks toward the window, and she's like, Johnny Depp, are you there? Now, I never noticed this before. I just noticed it for the first time when I was preparing for this video. So I always thought that this whole scene was, or not the whole scene, but this part was just a cheap attempt at a scare or a jump scare. Like, I thought she was concerned that Johnny Depp wasn't responding through the window. But then I noticed, oh, there's a little feather flying down, and that's when Nancy was looking at. And she's like, wait a minute, I had a dream where there's feathers all over the place, and now I see a feather in real life. So she starts to realize that it's possible to pull things out of her dream and into the real world. But for some reason, I never got that. So then, her and Johnny Depp figure that Rod is in danger because she saw Freddy in Rod's dream, essentially. So they decide to go to the jail, and they convince the guard to let them in to see Rod. But before they can get there, Rod starts having a dream in his cell, and you can see this bed sheet is like rolled up or whatever, and sort of wraps itself around Rod's neck, which is obviously being controlled by Freddy. And then he wakes up and he's like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? He starts screaming, and then the bedsheet pulls him towards the wall and ends up hanging him against the wall, and it looks like he breaks his neck. Poor Rod. And just then the police guy with Nancy and Johnny Depp come in, and but it's too late. He's already dead. was, I guess the next day or something, or the next few days, at the Rod's funeral, and you see Nancy here, really sad, and her two parents. And then, when they were leaving the funeral, Nancy's like, I know who did this. He's burned, and he wears a weird hat, and she starts describing him. And you can see the parents looking at each other in a very suspicious way, like they know something. And then the dad says she needs psychiatric help. And the mom's like, don't worry, I'm going to take her to this sleep clinic. I don't know why she would take her to a sleep clinic. Yeah, she hasn't been sleeping much, but maybe psychiatric help would have been better. But regardless, nothing would have helped against Freddy. So anyways, they take her to this sleep clinic, and they hook her up to all these machines, and they want to do a test on her to monitor her sleep patterns or something. And then, so she falls asleep. She's reluctant to do it, but she's like, okay, fine, whatever. She falls asleep, and then, her mom and this sleep clinic staff guy, whatever, start talking. But then Nancy starts freaking out. She's obviously having a nightmare, and all the equipment is going off the charts. So they wake her up. And then, a few interesting things is that her hair, or part of her hair, turns gray. And it remains gray for the rest of the movie, and in part 3, she's also in part 3. I guess she got so scared that her hair turned gray or something. And also she has a wound on her arm, a scratch on her arm. And then she's like, Mom, I pulled this out of my dream. And she had Freddy's hat in her hand, and her mom's like, oh my god. Kind of freaking out because I guess she recognizes it. So then, later, this is at home. I don't know if I guess it's another day or something like that. And her mom is drinking. So we also learned that the mom is an alcoholic. She always has this bottle. I don't know if it's vodka or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. And she was looking at the hat that Nancy brought out of her dream. And then Nancy confronts her a little bit about it. And she's like, who's Freddy Krueger? I guess she saw, I think inside the hat there was a label that said Freddy Krueger. So I guess he wrote his name inside his own hat. So that's how Nancy learns his name, I think. And then the mom's just like, Freddy Krueger can't hurt you, he's dead. And then I forget exactly what happens, but I seem to remember Nancy grabs the bottle and throws it on the ground and it breaks, but I don't remember 100% for sure. And then she leaves. So then she's walking with Johnny Depp outside, and it looks like they spent the day together, and they're crossing this little bridge, and they're talking about dreams and stuff. And Johnny Depp notices that she has this book called Booby Traps and Improvised Anti-Personnel Devices. And he's like, well, he's kind of like, what are you reading that for? And she's like, yeah, just in case. So that comes into play later in the movie. So then Nancy goes home, and she sees that all the windows on her house have bars on them. And she's like, what the heck is this about? So she goes inside and confronts her mother. And she's like, Mom, why are all the doors and windows barred? And she's like, it's just for your safety. And then it looks like the mom is kind of drunk again. But the mom decides to tell her the truth about Freddy Krueger. So she's like, come downstairs with me. So they go into the basement, and next to this, what do you call this, a furnace, old school furnace, and she starts telling him the story of Freddy. So basically, Freddy was, when he was a human, or when he was alive, or whatever, he was a murderer, and he killed a lot of kids in the neighborhood. And then the parents got really upset, obviously. And Freddy ends up getting caught by the police, and there's a trial. But for some reason, on some technicality, Freddy ends up going free. And this upsets all the parents in the neighborhood. So the parents decided to get together and burn Freddy alive. So that's what they did. They burned him, and he died. And so she says, he's dead because Mommy killed him. It's okay now, you can sleep. And she takes this little thing out of this cloth or something that that's in the furnace, and she unwraps it, and Freddy's glove is inside that cloth. So I guess the mom decided to keep Freddy's glove for some reason, which is really creepy if you think about it. And of course, Nancy sees the glove and she's like, "Oh my God, that's." She doesn't say it, but she's thinking, "That's the glove for my dreams." So then, Nancy calls Glenn, or Johnny Depp, who again lives right across the street, and she's basically comes up with a plan. She's gonna try to pull Freddy out of her dream, and then she wants Glenn to come over, and then I don't know, beat him up with a baseball bat or whatever, catch him or kill him or whatever. And Johnny Depp is not really believing all this. He's like, "Okay, whatever, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Don't worry about it." And she's like, "Whatever you do, don't fall." Oh, sorry. The plan was like, I think in like a set amount of time, like in a half an hour or whatever, show up outside of my house, and I'll have Freddy with me. But she's like, "Whatever you do, don't fall asleep." And he's like, "Yeah, don't worry, you can count on me." And then 3 seconds later, he's asleep. He literally falls asleep like right away. Yeah, it's a bit of an exaggeration. It wasn't right away, but he falls asleep pretty quick on his bed watching a little portable TV. So then Nancy, I think she went to go check on her mother or something, but then she goes back and she wants to call Glenn or Johnny Depp again. So she calls him, but the parents answer and tell her that he's busy, and they hang up. And then the parent, Johnny Depp's parents, disconnect or leave the phone off the hook. So then Nancy tries to call back and she gets a busy signal, and she gets upset. And I drew this panel wrong here. Basically, what happens is she gets upset, but then she hears Freddy. I think Freddy's claw screeching in the background, and that scares her, like through the phone. That scares her, so she pulls the phone out of the socket, out of the phone cord, and the phone is like cord is damaged. And she's like, "Oh great, what if Johnny Depp tries to call me?" But I drew it wrong because I drew her angry. I thought that she pulled it because she was mad that she got a busy signal, but she pulled it because she was scared because she heard Freddy's claws. But anyways, not a big deal. But then, just then, she hears the phone ring, even though it's pulled out of its socket, so it shouldn't be ringing. It's not a cordless, it's not a cell phone, obviously. So she's kind of reluctantly and slowly answers the phone. She's like, "Hello." And then the end of the receiver, and this is really disturbing and creepy, but the end of the phone, the part you're talking to, Freddy's tongue sticks out and like starts wagging in a really disturbing way, and he says, "I'm your boyfriend now." So Nancy freaks out and whips the phone on the ground, and so that's kind of weird. Like, how did that happen? Does Freddy have power in the real world or just the dream world? Or did Nancy fall asleep? But there's no indication that she's sleeping on this part, so I don't know. A little bit inconsistency there. But then Nancy kind of realizes, wait a minute, I'm your boyfriend now, so what do you mean she kind of figures that he's gonna kill Johnny Depp, and he's gonna be, that's what he means by "I'm your boyfriend now." So she's concerned. She runs downstairs, and she's gonna, open the front door and leave and go across the street to check on Glenn, but the door's locked from the inside. So she's like, she finds her mother totally wasted, just gone beyond belief, just wrecked on the couch. And the mom's like, locked. So she's gone. She's like, "You're not going anywhere." And Nancy's like really upset. So Nancy runs upstairs and looks through the window, and so we cut to Glenn's room, sleeping comfortably on his bed. But then all of a sudden, Freddy's glove comes up and pulls Johnny Depp down into the bed. So it's like there's a hole appears in his bed, and he gets completely pulled in the bed. And he's like, he's screaming, like profusely. And then what happens? classic Freddy moment, an horror movie moment. So, just a ridiculous, copious amounts of blood gush out of Johnny Depp's bed out of the hole where he got pulled in, and just flies up to the ceiling in a really cool but disturbing visual. Now, obviously, you can tell that they filmed this by everything's really upside down, and the blood is just pouring out with gravity, but still it looks really, really cool. And I'm pretty sure the human body doesn't hold that much blood, but still, it was just a really cool image. And then the mom comes in, and she sees all this blood everywhere, and she starts screaming. And Nancy's screaming because she saw this happen from across the street in her room. So, sorry guys, Johnny Depp is a goner too. Oh, I drew this page a lot darker, so I think it's easier to see. But, so yeah, now it cuts to Johnny Depp's house, and there's all these cops around and ambulance and all that stuff. Not that they can do anything for him, but they're investigating the crime scene. And Nancy's father's there. Of course, he's the lieutenant. And then Nancy calls the house, Johnny Depp's house, and she talks to her dad, and she says, "I know who did this, Dad. It was Fred Krueger." And then the look on the dad's face was just like, oh, kind of like, number one, how does she know about Fred Krueger? And number two, why did she think it was him instead? So she doesn't believe him, and she's like, and then she says, "Dad, I'm gonna go to sleep, pull him out of my dream, and then I want you to come in and arrest him." And he's like, "Oh yeah, sure, that's a good idea. Go to sleep. You need sleep." So he's just happy that she's gonna go to sleep, but he obviously doesn't believe her that she's gonna be able to pull him out of his dream. Oh, but she said this is the weird thing. She's like, okay, in 20 minutes, make sure you show up, and I'll have him. So she sets a time, deadline for 20 minutes, and then it shows her setting up, like in a montage. She's setting up a bunch of traps around her house. So that's why she was reading that self-defense booby trap book. So it shows her putting gunpowder inside a light bulb. She's setting up a sledgehammer outside her door. She sets a tripwire, and she does something with a clothespin. I'm not 100% sure. Then she goes to talk to her mom. So her mom's in her bedroom, lying in bed, and she's still drunk, but she's, they have sort of a touching moment where they say "I love you" to each other. But I have to admit, I'll say this here, the mom is she's a cheap actor. Like, she's very old school, soap opera actress type of thing, and it just comes off really cheesy in this movie. It just doesn't work for this movie. But anyway, so then Nancy goes in her bed, and she sets her digital wristwatch for 10 minutes timer. Sets the timer for 10 minutes, and then the watch is like 10 minutes and counting. So it actually says that in a voice, and there's no way a little flimsy watch like this back then would have any kind of voice capabilities, but it's just a movie. So, but the weird thing is that she set the timer for 10 minutes, but she told her dad to meet her in 20 minutes. So that means she set up all these traps and then had that conversation with her mom in 10 minutes. There's no way. Like, it would take at least an hour to set up these traps, I would think. But hey, whatever. Again, it's just a movie. So then Nancy falls asleep. Well, first she says the prayer, "Now I lay me down to sleep and pray the Lord my soul to keep," blah, blah, blah. And then she goes to bed. So she starts having a dream, and she goes down. In her dream, she's in her house, and she goes into the basement. She checks the boiler room. Sorry, not the boiler room, but the furnace, and she notices that the glove is not in there. So I don't know, I guess that means she's dreaming, or else the glove would be in there. So she notices this other door in the basement, and she goes down. She goes into this door and down the steps, and it leads to a boiler room. And then anyways, so then she goes down into the boiler room. She's searching around for Freddy, and she hears like little laughs, like Freddy's kind of stalking her. She hears some laughing here and there, and some nails screeching on the metal pipes and stuff, but she can't find him. But then she comes to this area, and then she sees Johnny Depp's headphones that he was listening to when he died, and it's all full of blood. And then she notices that she's running out of time. She can't find him. She's like, "Where are you?" And then boom, he pops out of nowhere. And it's weird because Nancy takes off, and it's weird because he's wearing his hat here, but in the next shot he doesn't have his hat on, and then for the rest of the movie he's not wearing a hat. So I wonder what happened to his hat. But then again, he's in the dream world, so I guess he made his own hat disappear because he's Freddy. He can do whatever he wants. So then Nancy jumps off this thing, and then suddenly she lands in front of her house inside these rose bushes, which doesn't make sense, but it's a dream, doesn't have to. And then she's looking around, she doesn't see Freddy, and then she looks at her watch again, very low on time, and then Freddy pops out of the bushes, and she grabs him just in time, and then her alarm starts going off. So that wakes her up, and she's in her bedroom. She's looking around. She's like, "Oh man, it didn't work. Freddy's not here." But then Freddy was hiding behind the bed, and he jumps out. And Nancy runs out of the room, and then Freddy chases her. And then this is where we go into Home Alone mode, where he's getting caught in all her booby traps. I was gonna draw like Macaulay Culkin in the background saying yes or something like that, but I'm like, nah, no time for that. So yeah, Freddy gets that sledgehammer right to the gut. Ooh, and that'd probably be enough to kill him or hurt him seriously, but he's a tough dude. And then he runs out the room, and he ends up falling over the banister down the stairs. And then he's chasing after her, and he trips over the tripwire, which causes the light bulb to explode behind him. That was full of gunpowder. So he goes flying. So Freddy kind of looks a little bit like a bumbling oaf on this part. Kind of looks almost like a parody on, to some degree. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of funny to watch now, this type of thing. I don't want to see Freddy, getting caught in traps and tripping and all that stuff. It diminishes his legend, I guess, but he's in the real world now, so I guess he doesn't really have any special abilities or godlike powers. So it does make sense. So Nancy runs into the basement, and then Freddy chases her, and then she grabs this jar of gasoline and dumps it on him, and then she lights a match, throws it on him, and he catches on fire. And it's funny that suddenly he looks like extra chunky, and that's because obviously the stunt double is wearing protective, many layers of protective material, so he doesn't actually burn, because they were using real fire back then, no CGI here. And not just for this movie, anytime in a movie back then when you saw somebody catch on fire, they looked, a little bit extra chunky. And then there's a part he's chasing Nancy up the steps. He looks more like Jason Voorhees, because that almost looks like he's wearing a hockey mask, because the mask is like really thick, obviously again to protect the stunt double. So Nancy runs out of the basement, and she locks the door behind her. And then she breaks the window and the front door, and she's screaming for help. And then there's still cops across the street investigating Johnny Depp's death. And then they see her screaming, so they call her dad. And her dad and the other cops go over there and break the door open. Because remember, the door is locked from the inside. And then she's like, "He's here. The killer's here. He's in the basement." So they go to try to open the door in the basement, and it won't open. Well, I don't know if they open it or not, but then they notice fiery footprints. Lots of fiery footprints leading upstairs. And then Nancy's like, oh my god, he's going for Mother. And the dad's like, what are you talking about, Nancy? What's going on here? So they both go upstairs. And then this is in the mom's room. Freddy is on top of the mother, who's on the bed. And they're both on fire. And then Nancy grabs a chair and WWE style just bam, smashes it on Freddy's back. And then the dad comes in and he gets some blankets, heavy blankets, and puts it on top of both Freddy and the mom to put out the fire. And this is where it really gets weird. When the fire goes out, he pulls the blankets away, and then all you see is the mom's heavily burnt body, and clearly dead body. And she slowly lowers down into the bed. So there's no. It's like a big hole in the bed, I guess, and she slowly lowers down into the bed, and then she lifts her arm and kind of waves at her. So, and then the bed just closes up, and then that's it. She's gone. So it's like, okay, wait, is this a dream at this point? Like, how is this happening in the real world? I don't know. It doesn't make too much sense to me, but it doesn't bother me too much. And the other weird thing is the dad is watching all this, and he's like, he has a little bit of a disturbed look on his face, but he's not shocked. He's just like, oh, that's disgusting. Like, I don't know, if I saw that, I'd be like, what the hell? I'd be freaking out. That's a life-changing event, But he doesn't seem that disturbed by it. And then, him and Nancy tells the dad, like, oh, do you believe me now? And then they hug and talk a little bit. And then the dad goes downstairs to do whatever police duties he's got to do. And Nancy's still in the room. And then the door closes by itself behind her. And then Freddy comes up out of the bed, kind of pushes himself through a bed sheet, kind of similar to the effect where earlier he was pushing his head through the wall when Nancy was sleeping. And he cuts through the bed sheet, and he's like, and now you die. But Nancy's not having any of that crap this time. She's like, I know you're not real. This is just a dream. But she looks really confident this time, like she's not scared anymore. And she's like, I take back all the power I give you. She says, I want my mother and friends back. She says, you're nothing. You're shite. And she turns her back on Freddy, and she touches the doorknob, ready to leave. And Freddy's like, no. And he lunges towards her, but then he just kind of disappears and fades away. So I guess that means he loses his power. And then suddenly we cut to, Nancy exits her front door of her house, and it's a nice, beautiful, sunny day, and she's wearing her regular school clothes. And her mom comes out the door as well, and she's like, oh, what a beautiful day, blah, blah, blah. She's all cheery and happy, and she's like, you know what, I think I'm going to give up drinking. It's kind of like, a little bit over the top. How happy she's acting, and everything seems nice, but a little bit off. And Nancy looks a little bit confused, but and then her friends pull up in a car, and there's Johnny Depp, there's Greasy Rod, and there's Tina, looking happy as if nothing happened. So mom's like, okay, you better go, you're gonna be late for school. And she's like, okay, bye, mom. So she goes into the car, and then all of a sudden she's happy to see her friend and everything, and then all of a sudden the sunroof of the car comes down like really quickly, and it kind of startles everybody because they weren't expecting that. And then on the sunroof you can see the patterns of Freddy's shirt, so there's like the red and green stripes, and then the windows start rolling up by themselves and the doors lock, and they start freaking out like, Johnny Depp, what's happening? And he's like, I don't know, I'm not doing this. And then Nancy starts screaming, and she looks back at her mother and she's screaming, but the mom is just like smiling and waving as if nothing's happening. And then the car drives drives off. I think you're Freddy laughing probably. And then probably one of the funniest shots, I guess, in the movie, unintentionally funny, is the mom standing there right next to the door, and then Freddy's hand comes bursting out this window and grabs the mom and then pulls her through this window. But it's funny because when she gets pulled in, it's just an obvious dummy, not a very convincing or good dummy, and there's no way the mom would have fit through this little window. So yeah, it just comes off looking funny in my opinion. One of the few effects in the movie that just don't work. And yeah, it looked pretty silly, but yeah, it doesn't ruin the movie by any means. Still a great movie. And then the movie fades to black, showing these girls playing jump rope on the sidewalk and singing the Freddy song, 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. And that's how the movie ends. So the original ending, Wes Craven wanted to do was different. He didn't want to do this whole thing with the friends coming back, and but the producers wanted to leave the possibility open for a sequel. So then they compromised by having Freddy's, take control of a car at the end of the movie. So at least, it's a bit of a compromise there. Alright, that does it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and that does it for this Halloween. I hope you have a happy and safe Halloween. Be careful out there, and make sure you eat as much candy as you can, and save some for me. Alright, anyways, that's enough for today. That's enough for this October, and I'll see you next time. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.